When we work with couples, when couples come to me, one of the problems we run into is defensiveness. And defensiveness, as I've said other places, is the chief enemy of couples communication. If I'm defensive, my shields are up, I'm expecting to be attacked, I assume that your intentions are bad, just lots of things come out of being defensive. We have to protect ourselves. The mission becomes protecting ourselves from whatever attack we're imagining or experiencing. Well, if the mission is to reduce defensiveness, then we need any tool we can to bring defensiveness down, to open up communication. Well, I use language like widen the communication channel. Well, how do we do that? One of the tools in our toolkit is something called I language, like the letter I. People often hear EYE, which makes me always say the letter I. What is I language? I language is two flavors. It is first talking about what I'm experiencing rather than what you're doing. So we usually say when we get mad or defensive, you pissed me off, you hurt my feelings, you did this, you said that. I'm not calling those things necessarily inaccurate, at least not yet, but that's not really the issue. The issue is what I'm experiencing, what my reaction is to what you've done. A more accurate way, not to mention a way less defensive, creating way to respond to that is, when you do this, I feel this way. When you say this, I think this, etc. It sounds like it's just, wrestling with tiny differences, but it's not. If I say you have a tendency to get defensive. You did this, you did that. Human beings get defensive when they're accused of things, even if they're true. But if I say, when you said this, I felt this way. When you did this thing, I thought to myself, X. So for instance, let's say your partner said something and it sounded derogatory to you. You could say, you just put me down. Well, the problem with that is that may have been their intention. They may not have been their intention, but now they're on the defensive. As opposed to, when you said X, I got defensive. I felt put down. I felt like you were criticizing me. Okay, that's how I felt. And really, that can't be argued with. It's how I feel. It's what I think. But what it does do is open up the door to a conversation about it, even a brief one. And with practice and a little time, I'm going to get away from saying you, and I'm going to say instead, I felt, I thought, I experienced. That's one flavor. The second flavor is speaking for yourself and not speaking for your partner. Couples really fall into this habit. She always thinks that I'm doing X. He always assumes that my intentions are Y. He thinks that I never cared for his mother. She thinks that I really don't like to go out on a Friday night. Whatever we're assuming, and you know what, again, I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong, but there's something provoking, something defensive making about speaking for another adult. Way better thing to do is to say, well, I think that you think. It is my experience that you tend to react this way. You seem to say these things on a consistent basis. Way more accurate, probably, and way more useful because it's going to make the other person less defensive. I language, notice in both cases, you're speaking for yourself. I tell you about my reaction rather than accuse you of making me do something or feel something. And I say what I think you think. I say what I think your motivation is rather than just speak for you as if I knew for sure. That takes practice, like I said a moment ago. It takes time to get good at this, but the payoff is enormous. First of all, like I've already said, it reduces defensiveness. With a little bit of practice, we tend to be less provoked when we get into a difficult conversation. Again, I'm talking for myself. And by the way, I'm working to get heard. Reference my video on reflective listening. Really helpful in this context. It makes it safer to be honest as well. You're less likely to pull your punches if you know you can speak your mind, but you're doing it from your personal perspective rather than making it into a court trial. You did this, you said this, you feel this way. It also, frankly, returns power to where it belongs. Some people hear this part and go, well, okay, but the other person is making me feel a certain way. There's a really useful litmus test here. Have you ever had a day where something that would ordinarily annoy you just bounced off you? Didn't bother you, you laughed, you put it aside, it didn't irritate you. I can guarantee that everybody watching this video has had that experience. Well, if I have the power to provoke you, if it's about what I did, and I'm not saying that the things I'm doing are always right, I'm simply saying where does the origin of the reaction lie, then every time I did it, you'd get provoked. So if I normally swear, let's use that as an example, and you get bugged when I swear or upset, but one day I swear and you're in a good mood, you ate your Wheaties, you did your push-ups, and you're like, nah, doesn't matter. That tells us that the reaction is in you, not in what I said. Again, that doesn't give your partner carte blanche to say or do whatever they want. It simply means I have the power to decide my reaction. I have the power to decide what I'm going to do with that. And the opposite is also true. You've had days where things that wouldn't ordinarily bother you kick you right in the shins. You're hangry, you're tired, you're frustrated, you're already upset from work, and a small thing that wouldn't set you off sets you off. Again, it's happening inside us. This approach, this I language tool, puts the power back where it belongs. My reactions are mine. And with some practice and a little bit of thought, I can begin to see where I'm reacting, and I can talk about it both coherently, honestly. So this is great. It feeds back on itself. This practice helps couples get less defensive, be more direct, put the power back where it belongs. And again, it takes practice. Our training is usually to go, you make me mad, you piss me off. But it's not accurate and it's not useful and it makes people defensive. Make mistakes, but practice this tool. I think you'll be surprised at how much it can help. Thanks.